shortly. Molweni bantu basekhaya, my name is Thami Mbongo. Mbongo mbuyisa ungaleza undimo usondisa umvemnyama. Today we are having our guest, Vusi Leeuw. Vusi is an artist and repertoire A&R extraordinaire. One of the very best and rare in the world. Currently, Vusi is running a Vusi Leeuw Consulting, a corporate communication boutique that lists companies like Osimba or Soft and Free or Samro as clients. Vusi Consulting has also contributed in building brands of some of the most successful personalities in South Africa today. I'm talking about Oboiti Tulo, or Nomza Mombata, or Lerato Khanyaho, or Gushe Samuels, to name but a few. He also continues to run HUGE, Huge Entertainment, now a leading music business consultant that has consulted for local and international music companies like Universal Music, Sony Music, and for Spice Africa, which is an Indian-owned digital content aggregation company. Vusi has served with excellence in various boards of key South African music industry entities like Moshido, South African International Music Conference, as the deputy chairperson from 2012 to 2014. ECHO, Association of Independent Record Companies, also served with KZN Music House, and as the steering committee member of the South African Music Awards. Vusi has delivered successful results for all the record companies that he has managed in his career, making him one of the most successful music industry gurus in the continent and Africa. In 1996, Kasitana Beck, Vusi started his professional music career as an intern at Sony Music South Africa's marketing division, where he assisted in the marketing and public relations of great artists like the late Wendy Mseleko. The artists as Fana Nontokozo Mbambo, Umdu Masilela, Mashaplane, Bauyakubula, Family Factory, and Raju Masikela, when Raju was returning South Africa by Alpania Kala. He also worked for Mzwake Mbuli production as an assistant manager. In 1997, Vusi was recruited by Arthur Mufukate to manage E999 music record company. He helped in making E999 Music to be one of the best independent record labels in South Africa, with superstar acts like Abashanti, Arthur, Mark Hendlas, Chiscorp, and New School, to name but a few. Vusi was awarded as the Best Manager Award at 999 music label. He was later headhunted by the international music label BMG Africa, now Siazi as by Sony after the company. As a label manager, AR, where he successfully launched the TKZ, building them to a multi-platinum selling crossover act. At BMG, Vusi also assisted in working on the careers of artists like the legendary Black Moses, Bawuyam Kumbula Pakwi, Soul Brothers, the artists Espana no Vusi, Makasela, Umanji, Music Africa, Umchita, to name but a few. When the international label EMI or CCP was starting a development label, they had hunted Vusi to head a label and AR manager, the label that became known as CCP2. At CCP2, Vusi discovered and launched the careers of artists and labels like Omandoza, Hip Hop Pantula, Double HP, DJ Fistas, KZN-based artists like All Time Religion Quartet, DJ Bongs, DJ Tweety, Tabisile, DJ Chinaman, Tembisile Ntaka, Coca-Cola Pop Stars Group, Bauya Kumbule, Adila, Neketo Lingo, Nekumbulaga. A legendary label, ETS Records, where with their artists, which included Mzegeze, Yamkomulu Mzegeze, Undano, Brown Dash, Isnyoka, the late South Africa R&B Queen TK. As an executive at EMI, Vusi also contributed to the careers of legendary superstars like the late Umapri, Brenda Fassi, we artists espana no Rebecca Molopo, Usipo Makabane, Avante, Shongwe, Kubeka, Alexandra, Brass Band, Soli Muholo, the late Vuyo Mukwena, Tepotule, and Avante, to name but a few. Vusi also contributed to the development of various Black youth-owned independent record labels like the TS Record, Leisainom Zegezego, Brown Dash, or Ondando, Nyoka, also contributed to artists as far as Nozakele Matita, Akazexpan Queen's label, Mayoni Records, and their artists, Elvovo Dirango, also contributed to WHP as Baby Fat Records. Vusi Leeuw signed the late Ulebu Matosa to EMI CCP in 2006. We saw him making a big comeback signing in the music industry, leading to the release of Lebu album zakhe zimbini, eyokala yayi Drama Queen, eyosibini Liveness, and a successful campaign with DSTV. Today, Sinaye uputi apa puti esitudo. We understand whereby uzo unpack a lot of things because of our network. Uputuzas joiner esemotweni, hoping uputi quality will be fine. But Vusi, welcome to the show. Kunjani putwa?
Ndiyabulela Thami, ndiyaphila, and greetings to your viewers as well.
Enkosi kakhulu putwa. But Vusi, when I was looking at your biography, while you were studying at Vet University, you spent some time with radio, you understand, where you worked with Voice of Vets, and also later on, you joined the Soweto Community Radio, which is now known as Ijozi FM. Can you tell us, Uguti, that experience, we understand, of working with radio, it made kanjani ukukhula to be this person that you are today?
Thanks. I would say that besides what everybody normally goes for, which is being a radio DJ or presenter, I was also I got to know about being a compiler, music compiler, and obviously in a small station like that, you also learn other skills, which is around running a radio station, So I was able then to I think that, well, as much as I didn't know that I'll end up in the music industry, because I was studying industrial sociology and law, so I was nowhere in the path of coming into the music industry. But I think that later got me to understand, like basically the relationship of radio and music. What goes on in terms of music compiling and stuff like that. But to tell the truth, for the first time, I got to know that there's something called a record label, because every time we see more about artists, or we see artists more than we know the people behind, artists and the marketing of the music. I think when a lot of people, probably even still today, whenever they see an artist, they never think that there's people behind. So when an artist is on a radio interview, or an artist is performing live on a TV show, maybe some people still assume that the artist got himself there, himself or herself, So as a music compiler, for the first time, just at Varsity, it's only then that I got to kind of think again to say, yeah, man, I grew up seeing like Chico, and back in the day, artists used to basically label brand their cars, So Chico had his kumbi, we used to call it the Chico bus, So one grew up seeing Chico bus and all of that, but never thought that there's a record label behind Chico, So it was in that environment of campus radio that I got to discover that, hey, I never thought that there will be people behind the scenes. So that's how I got to, fun enough, the first label that I got to know of was EMI. Which later I got to apply for a job. And I think the nice story about that is I applied. I was applying for a holiday, job like a student, and I went for an interview in a suit and stuff like that. And I was told that I had the job, only to find that the job that I got was to go pack CDs at the warehouse. So I worked there Look, I was disappointed, but I felt like, well, maybe this is an opportunity to learn the industry, or the whole record company from the bottom, So I went and worked taking CDs, and there were night shifts as well. For instance, when a store or stores are looking for music, so that music has to be packed so that it can be shipped out, to different parts of the country. So that's what I was doing, collecting orders and all of that. But I didn't last long, because I felt that, okay, after some night shifts and stuff like that, I felt like, I think I've seen enough of that side of the industry. But I think, it will be the experience that I'm going to need in the future, especially with a degree. So I resigned, but I was happy to be in a position where I got to work on the floor, in a warehouse, packing CDs and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a lesson I like to share with young people, to say that, nice. For example, with you guys in film and stuff like that, you'll be told that you start by making tea, even in ad agencies, you get told that you start by making tea. So for me, coming into the music industry with everything that you've read, in terms of my biography. So I started, it's not like it was all glamour, when I started. I started in a factory space.
But Vusi, thank you very much for that. I was not going to ask this question, but because of the experience of working with radio, data, you understand, there's a lot of cry with industry about what is called payola. You understand? What is your personal take about that before we go to other things?
Look, I think I've been very outspoken about payola, which is pay for play. For those who don't understand what payola is, where artists and record companies are expected to pay compilers, and at some point they used to pay DJs just to get their music to be played. And I mean, let's not shy away. Metro FM has been the king of that, and we're going to be fighting it as the industry. We still continue fighting it, but we're going to be going full force now. So it is wrong. It's wrong because, I mean, for example, in some of those stations like your Metro FM, it said that they expect you to pay a minimum of 10,000 just for your song to be played, and it's between 10,000 and 100,000. Per song, yeah, for one song. So I mean, you can imagine coming out of the township, you have the talent, and you are, after struggling to even get that money just to do your one song, which is not cheap, then you are expected, whereas at a government-owned or financed radio station, you know, you are expected, coming from a Kayelicha or wherever, you know, you're expected to pay somebody who's already getting a salary, you know, you're expected to pay them a minimum of 10,000. Where are you going to get that 10,000? You don't even, just to get that money for taxi to get to that station just to deliver your music, you had to struggle. So, but these are part of the things that have been happening. I mean, payola is not only just about people or you as an artist or record label being expected to pay to get your music played on radio, but there are people and record companies who pay compilers not to play your music.
You.
So I would pay a radio station not to play Thami's music, because I feel like his music is gonna be a threat to my music, or because Thami didn't want to sign to my label, I'm gonna make sure that it doesn't succeed. So these are the challenges that are faced by artists in South Africa, and that people are too shy to talk about, but also artists are guilty as well, because as we say, it's also artists who pay compilers, you know, to play their music. So artists are also not clean. It's the same way as when we talk about payola and we're thinking that we're fighting for artists, it's also artists and some of those indie record labels and stuff whose staff go and tell the compilers that Vusi was talking about the fact that you guys are taking payola. So it must not be made as if and as they normally say that in a crime situation, you know, where there's bribery, there's one who bribes and the one who accepts the bribe.
While we are on this matter, in the past weeks, I was amongst the people who went to Samro to have a meeting with the CEO as Abataliba Movement Drive, which was known as Abataliba MAC. And you know, the CEO mentioned there's a lot of money, you understand, that if we allow Samro that is unclaimed, millions, you understand. And when we find out, sometimes there are mistakes about the misspelling or wrong names, you understand, and that money is taken back to the record labels, which artists on the grounds are not getting, you understand, because in record labels, they for mana after 3 years. What is your take? Because I felt, Vusi, I don't want to lie, there's a game also that is played by record labels, you understand, whereby it empowers them but the artists on the grounds are suffering. What is your take on that?
Look, right now, I will hope that you are quoting the CEO of Samro or whoever that you spoke to at Samro. I hope you're quoting them correctly. Because if you're quoting them correctly, I will tell you that they're lying. Because remember, Samro deals with publishing and song, which is about songwriting, all right? So there's a publisher, there's a record company, there's a songwriter, all right? Samro deals with the publisher and the songwriter, not the record company, all right? So there's no way that there'll be money that goes to record companies from Samro. The Samro pays composers and publishers, or composers through their publishers. All right. So if Thami doesn't have a publisher, Thami would have registered at Samro as a composer direct. They will pay him direct. But if Thami has a music publisher, then the money will be paid to his music publisher. So there's no way that that money can go to a record label. There's no way. So it is in that light that I'm saying, I hope you are not misquoting, but if you correct, then that's, let's call it a lie. That's a blatant lie. What I know about mistakes that normally happen, maybe where a songwriter cannot be identified or stuff like that, is that there's a kitty within Samro where the unclaimed monies of any song that has been played and paid by record companies and anyone who pays royalties, whether it's a venue or a music festival organizer, stuff like that, or club, or honest DJ who understands that for every music that they play, they have to have a license with Samro, you know, because that music belongs to people who have spent money, and therefore they must get what is rightfully theirs. So basically that money becomes money that is unclaimed for, and it stays within Samro coffers until somebody can claim it. And if nobody claims it for years or stuff like that, I think Samro, besides that money obviously earns them interest, but Samro, they make certain decisions whether to kind of divide it and pay it amongst certain earners of that time, you know. But they also have a duty to go all out, you know, in verifying the composers, because unless it's a song that is what we would call a white label in which used to happen back in the day, where you have a record or a song that somebody picks up from the streets, and maybe they start playing it, but nobody knows who the composer is, who the record company is, who the publisher is, you know. But they need to find out. So there's many ways that they can do that, you know. If I'm surely sometimes if a song gets popular, that artist might end up performing. So if they check if has that artist ever performed and who was that artist, you know, they'll be able to find the correct information. Whether that artist composed or didn't compose, but they can ask that artist. If the song was submitted to radio correctly, but maybe there was like misspelling of composers, they can go back to the radio station and say which record company sampled you with this song, and they go back to that record company to say you didn't provide the correct information. Can you help us track the people who composed the song so that they can be paid, whether they've got a publisher or not. At the same time, if you have a publisher, then your publisher will make sure that they notify Samro up when the song is being played on radio through the every song released notification forms that you have to always send to Samro as a duty. And that's also for you as a composer to notify Samro about your song. The same way as if you were at Edgar's and they were playing your song, look at the time and go back to Samro and say, I was at Edgar's in Sentin at 1 p.m. and they were playing my song. Can you please follow up and check if they're gonna pay me for that, you know? So what I'm just saying is it's about information.
Thank you very much, Vusi. Also for clarity, as you said, maybe it's my way of saying it, which is wrong. You are correct. Sandra was talking about publishers and composers. Yeah, you understand that. Maybe it's just a lack of information to use the term record label. So see clearly. But when you joined Premier Premium Music.
Yeah.
We understand, and it says that you have successfully launched careers. The artists Fanano, Pugalaf, Denny K, and Osebezeno Repiri, Nombongeni Ngemape album. You understand? Can you unpack us in terms of your experience of like launching careers as some of these artists?
Well, yeah, but let's say before that, I had already launched TKZ successfully, and other artists that included. There was the basic, for example, Jonina and Ray Piri also had a label called Killer Joe Records. And one of the eggs was one of the groups that I launched. I think it was called D-Town. And there was Umchida as well, Bongane. I just forgot Bongane's surname, but he's now with SAFM as a presenter. So yeah, so look, I think in terms of launching an artist, for me, it starts from the fact that I think I always say I've been blessed. Besides that, I'm a musician myself, but I've been blessed to have an A&R ear, which is not something you can study. And at the same time, I have a marketing mind. So whenever I discover an artist, I at the time, either when I listen to their music or demos at that time, I normally, I kind of have a vision, you know, in my head on what I can do with that artist, where I can place that artist. Is there a gap in the market that I'm seeing, and all of that? Which, I mean, I would say that with me believing in myself, that has enabled me basically to have the record that I have, because almost every artist that I've launched, even if you look at all the artists that I've worked with, especially not the legends that I had a pleasure of working with at a later stage after their careers were made. But when you're talking your TKZs, your Mendoza, and all of those, your Toya Delazy, all of those kind of artists, when you look at WHP, Mendoza, all of them are not the same, you know? Because I don't believe in copycats. And when I believe in an artist, I'll be controversial and say I don't believe in research. Because if I believed in research, I will tell you that a number of eggs, including TKZ, I was told by big people in the industry, including, if you remember, Reliable Music Warehouse, which was the biggest retailer of black music. When I went there to play them the TKZ songs before we released them, and they told me that it was not going to work. So imagine if I had listened to that, then we would not be talking about TKZ and their achievement in the industry and how they influenced and changed the industry at the same time, you know. So when I listen to a product, it's about whether do I believe in it, and if I believe in it, I go all out. obviously I work with the artist in the studio, and like sometimes it's going through final touches of saying, okay, change this, let's do this there and stuff like that. Sometimes I like, for example, with Mendoza, when we did his debut album, I gave him a brief to say, I want us to show people that because people were dissing Kwaito at that time, as calling it music that is not creative, it's just about one word and stuff like that. And I said to Mendoza, okay, I want us to go in and I want us to do an album that's gonna have a message and have verses and at the same time make people dance. And you know, I must say, Mendoza and Vusi Leeuw, who was the producer that I appointed to produce that album, they were able to deliver what I was looking for. I mean, that's why you had Zoitola Kanjani Hlele Khoneni. You know, you can name other songs, but when you think about Zoitola Kanjani Hlele Khoneni, you'd say probably it's one of the very first Kwaito songs that had verses. And at the same time, it had a message. At the same time, it made people dance. So, you know, we were able to do that. We made some impact because we changed the industry. And how many other kids wanted to be Mendozas, you know, and stuff like that. So each project is kind of different. I approach it in a different way, and based on that particular artist. I don't try and say copy so and stuff like that, you know. That's why, for example, again, when you think of WHP, he was rapping in Setswana. When at the time when the industry was full of, most of the successful stuff was people who were doing stuff in isiZulu, and we stuck with that. You know, we stuck with Setswana. We pushed until we were able to break, and it. Let's say, as they normally say, the rest is history. You know, we later had Mutswako and stuff like that. So each project, I approach it on its individual, the way I see it individually, and the artist itself. And yeah, I mean, I've gone to an extent of naming an artist like Mendoza instead of, because when we did his solo album, there was Mdu Masilela and his name is Mdu Shabalala. We're not gonna go in to sell a product as Mdu in Kwaito when there was already a big artist like Mdu Masilela. There was gonna be confusion and all. So I had to come up with a name and I called him Mendoza. The same way with WHP. Yes, originally it was Jaba, and but I needed to say we need to make people understand the difference between what he was doing, which was local hip hop, because at that time local hip hop wasn't big, Venek, you know, to say the people must not think that he's trying to be white. Hence hip hop Pantsula, which was hip hop being the American youth culture. I mean, that has its own language, style, and music, and as you would know what hip hop is, and Ispanzula, which is South African youth culture, especially at the time, with its own language, style of dressing, music, and stuff like that. So that's why hip hop Panzula, which is the combination of the two, hip hop and South African black youth culture, is Panzula. I talk too much. Yeah?
No. It's good. It's good, Vusi, because in this show, that's why we call it State of the Arts. You understand that we want our guests, you understand that, to speak out so that we really understand each other. Vusi, I wanted to ask you something. Especially in the industry, there's this thing that I discovered who, you understand, or I've helped Ubani to reach. Like, for example, when I'm looking at the biography, some of the artists that you've worked with, like Abu Simpiwe Dana and many more, you understand. And some people will say, like Abu Zahara Nendoni, which you did not work, they will say, Guti, actually, you've never discovered Ubani, you understand, because Ubani was already doing maybe a music or something. What is your take with that? Because you know about becoming famous and then try. Actually, I was not discovered by Vusi, but Vusi signed me record label, not discovered. What is your take with that, and how do we explain that?
Yeah, look, I think number one, I'll start by saying each and every area in terms of work, all right, has its own language.
Mm.
When you go to journalism, they've got words that they use. When you go to science, you know, they've got their own language and all. In music, probably just like in soccer and stuff like that. When you find someone, all right, it's called discovering.
Mm.
It's almost, somebody can also say diamond and gold can argue that they were never discovered because they were sitting there underground shining. They were gonna be there anyway. So, and probably it becomes that thing that maybe other people end up wanting to be everything. You know, as I said, that I started as a musician and as a producer, but I decided, let me do what I think I can do best, which is help, you know, in shaping careers of people, and through what I discovered later that it's a talent that I have. And so I could have easily said, you know what, I'll do my own music and do what I'm doing for other people, for myself or for my family and friends. So what I'm just saying is maybe that's partly what the sad part about the music that we do, sort of the role that we play in the industry. People want to belittle it, you know, as if we don't contribute anything, you know. As I said, for me, for instance, as an A&R person, it's part of what I do is to produce. The one thing that, unfortunately, because of our political background and stuff like that, we've compromised our rights and never taken credit on stuff that we've done in terms of, for example, producing, you know, because I came into an industry where some of the people in the past who were kind of known as A&R, or at that time talent scouts, some wanted to be bribed, you know, for you to get a recording deal. Some wanted to take a claim of composition in your own work, you know, for them to give you a record deal, you know. So when I came in from that conscience that compromised me, you know. Let me give you an example. When you take a song like by Kabelo, Mikiting, all right, which is also, other people know it as the Let the Good Times Roll, all right. That whole idea of bringing back that song was my idea. You know, I had the instrumental of that song because I wanted to redo it, all right. And when Kabelo, it was TKZ was going through challenges, and they had kind of parted at the time, and Kabelo, everybody didn't think that he was talented. Instead, people were saying Zwei and Tukulo were the most talented, and they were seeing Kabelo as if he was just lucky to be part of those. I gave him the instrumental. That was the first song when I said I'm gonna sign him, you know, because I recognized the talent that I believed he had, you know. I gave him that song. And I went back and got Mr. Godfrey Nzuza, you know, who's the original composer of that song. And I brought him into the studio and I said, I want to redo your song for this guy. And Godfrey at that time didn't know Kabelo, you know. And I said, and I brought him into studio. And I said, I want us though to get it the way, because the reason instead of just us reprogramming it, the reason I went and brought in the original person was because I wanted to get that original sound, not to try and fiddle in terms of how maybe I think it was played, you know. And Godfrey Nzuza went and got and brought the late Bones Brittle, you know, who was one of the respected keyboardist in the country. You know, he used to play the keys for Hotline, you know, PJ Powers. So Godfrey brought him in, and he brought the original GX7 Yamaha keyboard that was used in the 80s when they recorded that song the very first time, you know, and that's how we got the original sound. And for the vocal, the late Bra Ali Cat was also still alive, and I said to Bra Godfrey, can you bring Bra Ali? Where is he? And he said, no, he's still there. He stays in Tembisa. I said, can we please get him to the studio? We paid for him to come to the studio to redo the vocals. And you know, and Godfrey, not Godfrey Nzuza, Godfrey, popularly known as Goofy, was the head producer of the project, you know, then started working on everything. So what I'm just saying is, if you know music and what producing is, then you will know that Vusi Leeuw was a producer or co-producer of that song. But if you can go and look at those credits, Vusi Leeuw didn't even take the credit. So when people start saying that person didn't do anything for me or he didn't discover me, there's so much that we can tell on, for me, on each artist that I worked with, on how I not only found them, but maybe their music was not in a direction that people will understand, or people will, or can be commercialized. That then through my small brain, I was able to bring back or to bring things or make comments on what needs to be done before people can hear that song. To make it the song that everybody at the end of the day starts saying, wow, that's a great song, you know? So some of us compromise royalties, you know, for composing. I mean, there's a song, for example, called Mafikeng by WHP. I composed that song, you know, and then put together everyone in terms of production, and I produced that song, you know. But I never go around saying, hey, I'm also a producer, songwriter, and stuff like that, you know. So because of the fact that I wanted to fight the myth that makes people think that everything, when somebody works with you, you got to take something from them, even if you don't deserve it, you know, or which is almost like a bribery, you know, for you to open up the doors for people. It's the same way as I'll put down some facts and say the same way as other men expect women to sleep with them for them to do either produce their music or promote their music or give them a chance in the industry. These are part of things that we still have to fight even today.
Siyabulela kakhulu Vusi. Clearly, you understand in background, you've got a very rich background when it comes to music. And you are currently the president of South African Music Industry Council. Can we, for now, talk about the summit? Just for those who don't know what is summit, can you just unpack it?
Okay, Summit is, as you said, it's the South African Music Industry Council. It's a body that was partly encouraged by our current government to say that the South African music industry, especially even from the artist point, we need to speak with one voice. There needs to be unity. And it's important because when you go into any other business, for example, if you go to corporate, or like you've got, for example, like organization like BASA and BUSA, which is Black Business South Africa, you know. So each and every area in business has its own collective organizations where people talk with one voice or they represent their particular industry. And the challenge with the music industry was the fact that there was no such a structure, where people can talk in unity. So within SAMIC, you have uh, uh, various bodies. You have, for example, you have organizations like your ECHO, which is Association of Independent Record Companies. You've got associations like RISA, which is the Recording Industry of South Africa, which is made up of both majors and major record labels and independent South African record companies. ECHO is made up only of South African independent record companies. You've got publishers, various type of publishers, from Sambro to Capasso to, you also have, like, let's say, collecting bodies, including your SAMPRA. You have unions, musicians unions like I'm just forgetting the name.
Tumsa? Is it Tumsa?
No, Tumsa is not yet a member. AISA.
Okay.
AISA, led by Hepta. So basically, and you also have women organizations in the music industry, like Sisterhood, led by their president, Usisnozi. So basically, under SAMIC, you can say it's a legitimate music industry body, and that's who SAMIC is.
Putwam, in short, I know you are currently the president. Obviously, as you said, it becomes the excuse when put Vusi, especially from the government. They always say, the industry must speak in one voice and blah, blah. And you've got structures like SAMIC. SIFSA was formed 2015 and blah, 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 we understand. But we are not seeing a result. So from your take, ever since SAMIC was formed, and now that you have become a president, yes, SAMIC, do you feel, Guti, we are going to a right direction of speaking in one voice? We understand has SAMIC achieved some of the things that they were meant to? Because sometimes we are too stuck about politics, personal agendas and stuff, you understand, and not move the industry forward. What is your take in terms of, like, Uguti, what do you feel were some of, if the failures, I don't want to call them failures, you understand, Uguti, what is taking long, Uguti industry, to be speaking in one voice, and what is it that you are bringing as the president of SAMIC in pushing this agenda?
Let me say that I would say, sadly, SAMIC has not played the role that it's been expected to play over the years. And currently, it's still not doing that as yet, although we are organizing ourselves towards that direction. The sad part is the fact that, I don't know, man, that people are obsessed about positions, because when you are in a structure and you've been appointed in a structure, it's not about yourself. If you are taking the responsibility to deliver and to use some of your skills to deliver for the industry, that's what needs to happen. Now you have, for example, you have an organization like SAMIC that doesn't even have a cent in it, and you have then people attacking individuals, so that there's no way forward. But for what? Then you ask yourself, what is it that people would fight so much for positions where there is not even money? Why? Or unless they were using
Vusi, we are losing you on this side. think Vusi is still having some technical issues. We are hoping is going to join us. We are speaking to him, especially around the music industry. The interview is going very well. Now we are talking about Thami after we've unpacked the background, you understand, Vusi and his involvement in the music industry. As we know, most of the time, we believe some of the people that are leading in the cultural and creative industry are not the people who are coming from the sector. We understand. So that's why in the show, when we unpack the bio of our guests, we want to make sure our guest, you understand, explains or unpack their involvement in the industry. We understand, so that we've got a better position. Like for what it has been happening today, Vusi has been unpacking in terms of his work and his relationship with some of the South African artists. You understand? And then we moved our talk to talk about Thami, because he's the current president of South African Music Industry Council. We understand, so that we better understand what these structures are doing and what they are meant for. You understand? And we also want to speak to him about the industry. As you know, the show is called The State of the Arts. You understand, where we look at their political issues that are involved in the industry. He has started to mention about personal staff. You understand, in terms of leadership position. We wanted to talk about corruption in the art sector. You understand. We also wanted to talk about, because he started to mention about personal vendettas and stuff. You understand that it's more than that. And we also wanted to talk to him about vaccination, because we saw him alongside with President of USIFSA, who joined Mewana, and President Yesakaev or Romeo Ramwada, supporting the initiative that Minister Natim Tetwa FNB. So I wanted to also to get a sense what is their thinking. You understand, and why was they were quiet, if they were quiet, when NAC sit-in happened and other things. You understand? We wanted to unpack all of those. And I think because of network issues, we understand, as Kwazi Ubanaye fully, we understand, but we were starting to engage on very important issues. You understand, but due to network, we couldn't finish all those things. So I think on my side, it will be right, you understand, to have a follow-up session, you understand, whether with Vusi and other leaders, and do sort of like an open discussion about some of the issues that we did not cover. We understand. With that, I will say, thank you very much for tuning in. I think Vusi is having a problem with the network, but we're not going to keep you long. You understand that we are going to make a follow-up, you understand, of an interview where we cover some of the issues that we could not cover today. On Wednesday, we are talking to Loyiso Damoi, all the way from Western Cape. Please do subscribe to our channel so that you can get updates on our upcoming shows. From me, Thami Mbongo, Mbuyisa ungaleza undima usondisa umbemnyama, ozalwa komanzana, ophumalo, omtungwa, omdletshe, ndiyabulela. Stay blessed.